that's it. We are live on the internet.
Awesome.
Just like that. It's magic.
It's magic.
It's
Hi,
powerful.
world.
That's the world right there. Like you said, of the two people that watch, live, usually it was definitely Marie Robertson. She was good usually, and Bob Pratt is always a good.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate the people who actually watch it as it's happening. Have you ever watched one live?
Yeah.
Have you?
When I'm not teaching.
Right. Well, usually you're in the water, right?
Yeah.
9 a.m. is like prime.
Yes.
Prime water time.
Exactly.
So when do you start classes usually?
7:40 a.m.
Why 7:40?
Because there's some parents that are sneaking it in on their way to work.
Okay.
It's a really big commitment to come to lessons every day.
Why 7:40 and not 7:30 or 7:55?
Because it makes a big difference to my brain to not have to get up and be ready at 7:30. 7:40 was actually the latest that I could push it to make it work for this family.
Gotcha. So people were on the way to work.
Yes.
And they do the ISR, and then they drop the kid at daycare, I'm guessing?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. That's good. So I'm sure you have a lot of people who want that spot, right?
Absolutely. On the way to work, on the way home from work.
Right.
It's a huge market and unmet, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you have a lottery? Like, how do you decide who gets the 7:40 spot? First come, first serve?
Whoever registers first. I let them know on the very first conversation that if they want to reserve a time, the registration has to get completed. So that generally creates a little motivation to get it done.
Right.
Yeah.
How far out do people book?
I have had people book for like 4 months out.
Okay.
Some people travel down.
Right.
This is like when family comes down to visit snowbirds.
Snowbirds, yeah.
They'll book for the holidays and stuff like that.
That's pretty cool. So people from north will come down and they'll, while they're on their vacation or whatever, they'll do ISR.
And do like a refresher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably not the full course. They'd have to be here a long time.
Exactly.
I mean, unless they live back and forth, I guess.
Yeah. Something about grandparents love swimming with their grandchildren.
Yeah?
So yeah, they'll do some refreshers.
Okay. You get a lot of like grandparents?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
I do. I think it's because I taught at the Pompano Aquatic Center for so long. And as I was teaching, there were always water aerobics classes going on.
Right.
So they were like the cheerleaders for these babies. And the senior citizens that would come and take the water aerobics classes. And then the next thing you know, they're saying, oh, you've got to teach my grandchild.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It makes sense. We do a lot of pool fences for grandparents, too. So it makes sense that they'd want the ISR instruction also.
Absolutely.
It fits,
Yeah.
And we get a lot where the grandparents are making sure their kids do it.
Good.
Where the grandparents, call and they're like, yeah, my daughter Julie doesn't know it yet, but she's getting a pool fence. So can you...
Wonderful.
Yeah, can you go out and, give her an estimate?
Yeah.
And,
That's such a gift. The peace of mind of knowing.
Absolutely. I'm sure you run into something similar with ISR. It's just other family members, hammering it home to people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Friends and family.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because generally when a parent brings their child to ISR lessons and they see the end result, the skill, the competence, the confidence, they want everyone else that they love to have access to this program too. And as many kids as possible to get these lessons.
So for the 4 people on Earth who don't know, can you explain what ISR is?
Yes. Yeah. ISR is Infant Swimming Resource. Mm-hmm. We teach
Not
survival.
rescue anymore.
Not rescue anymore.
Right. I was old school. It was rescue.
Yes.
I still get it wrong.
I remember the rescue too. Yeah. We've evolved to resource
right.
now. And we work with children 6 months and up. Mm-hmm. Our objective is to teach them the skills that they need so that if they fall into any body of water, they'll be able to save themselves independently. So that's our focus, is survival swimming. And babies as young as 6 months old can learn how to roll over and float and how to respond to any body of water approaching their face by getting into that float. And that's going to give them an opportunity to breathe and rest and to call us so we can come and help them.
And a 6-month-old, if people haven't seen the videos, can literally roll over and float.
Yes,
and there's a bunch of videos online of babies doing it. We were just talking about Carrie's daughter,
Yes.
Jody, help me.
Josie,
thank you. Josie doing it. That thing's been going viral. It's super cool.
Yes, I love it.
And there's more, there was the video on 2020 of the baby doing it. But,
it's a pretty beautiful thing to see.
Do you get a lot of 6-month-olds?
Not as many as I would say that the biggest age is around 18 months.
Okay.
But I love teaching the 6-month-old babies too.
And they do well?
They do awesome. This is what I've seen with the babes that learn how to float
That's
first.
what I was wondering.
Well, when they learn how to float first, so they're not yet walking,
right?
Then when it's time to learn how to swim, which is what we teach once they start walking,
Yeah.
they are swimming like nobody's business.
That's awesome.
Like, literally a week, they'll be swimming. And to see, a little 1-year-old swimming to the steps, it's pretty cool. So I find that they generally take to the swimming really well. And I think it's because they already know how to do the work. They already
Right.
know how to do what's required to be alive in that environment.
Sure.
They have the breath control. They already know how to float. So I think the swimming part is really the fun part.
Sure.
And they just generally take to it really well.
It's the locomotion part. It's actually
Yeah.
going forward, which is kind of cool.
Yes, which they all seem to be about the locomotion. Yeah.
I wonder if, and I just had this thought, if children have an easier time learning to walk in the pool, without the, with the weightlessness and.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thought. I have seen that babies that will start the floating stage,
Right.
oftentimes will start walking in the process
Okay.
of their floating lessons.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so I think that there's definitely a connection there.
Yeah, because I don't walk on land, but I can walk in a pool.
Yeah.
Because it's weightless, right?
Right.
So it's all the same. If you're 8 months old and you're trying to figure it out, it might be easier to walk in water
Yeah.
than it is on land, right?
Yeah, and some pools are designed to where that they could accommodate that, like
Super
with the
shallow.
shelves
Right.
that are in a lot of pools now.
Yeah.
It could be holding onto the wall.
Yeah. That's an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I recently learned that there is a lot of studies, data about babies progressing cognitively from
Yes.
swim lessons,
Yes, it's a beautiful thing.
which is really cool.
It's a beautiful thing, and it makes sense because if we think about what the studies that I've seen show that there's definitely a link to academic success, specifically with mathematics. And if you think about it, we're teaching these little babies. Yes, they are little babies, but they're learning problem solving. So they're developing a part of their brain that is going to help them with problem solving later in their life, which is math,
Right?
beyond other things.
Or anything.
And they're also learning at such a young age that they can get into a position that allows them to breathe and really connect with their breath, that they're going to be able to resolve that situation, which is huge
Right.
to teach a child that.
Absolutely.
That they get to be the answer, and that the key to that is connecting to their breath. So they can then decide what to do from a calm place rather than from feeling panicked, like when am I going to get my next breath? So it's definitely a huge benefit.
And probably if they start at 6 months old, it's probably the first thing they've done where they were bad at it, and then they saw themselves get better.
Yeah.
And they've progressed into competence.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is important for people in general
Definitely.
to see yourself go through that arc.
I think it's huge. And it's teaching self-reliance at a very young age.
Sure.
I have seen, it might sound unbelievable, but I have seen babies that get out of the pool and they look really confident.
Yeah.
They look like they know they just did something awesome. And that's a beautiful thing that I think all parents beyond the safety realm want to provide their children with, is any opportunities to grow and to feel confident about themselves, to
Right.
give them those skills.
And obviously the safety is the most important part. That's why we're doing it. Right?
Obviously, yeah. The
Yeah.
safety is the most important part, and the benefits beyond. I mean, it's really beautiful to see. I've had so many parents tell me that the children get this confidence that goes with them well beyond the pool deck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah. Because I think a part of it is what you're saying, that at such a young age, they're going through a process of going from not knowing anything about being in that environment to being able to handle themselves independently. Of course, they'll always need parental supervision. It's not a substitute for supervision.
Sure.
But we know that supervision breaks down. So if they have the skills to handle that situation on their own, then I really think that's the best outcome that we can shoot for with ending childhood drowning.
So again, for people who don't know, explain how it works exactly. So they come once a
Okay.
day for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yep.
The goal is that they swim Monday through Friday, so they would have 5 lessons per week. They're super short lessons. They're a maximum of 10 minutes per day. And I like to be really clear with my clients that that's a maximum amount of time, and that there may be days that their child doesn't even require 10 minutes. because my goal with teaching them is to end on their very best performance.
Okay.
And I don't know when that's going to happen
Right.
exactly in the lesson, but I do know that if, Charlie has his first independent float, for example, and we're 3 minutes in, I would be a fool
Right.
to miss out on communicating to that child that what he just did was so amazing, and I want to see more of that later.
Yeah.
And if it happens 3 minutes in or 8 minutes in,
Then that's a wrap.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. That's exactly right. So I like to make sure that my clients are aware of how the lessons work from that perspective too, because they're so different than the traditional swim lesson
Sure.
structure. And then as far as how long it takes in terms of consecutive weeks, it's really hard to say with any accuracy. ISR says it can be done at the floating stage. They say that it can be about 4 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
When they are walking, then they learn to swim, to locate different targets in the water, like the steps or the ladder. And then when they need to breathe, roll over and float, and then continue to swim. So they'll just kind of like a little otter, swim, float, swim as many times as necessary. ISR says that can be done in about 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
I think it really depends a lot on where the child is at, what their prior experience has been, how comfortable they are in the water, and the attendance. So I don't really know how long it's going to take, and
Right.
that's just something that I like to share with my clients on the front end.
Sure. That way they have proper expectations.
Yes.
Do they feel gypped if you have a 4-minute class? They're like, wait, I have 6 more minutes.
If
Yeah.
I haven't done a good job
Yeah, of
at
explaining.
communicating to
Yeah.
them that a 4-minute lesson is actually a
good
breakthrough,
thing. Yeah.
something beautiful just happened,
Right.
and it's not the norm. So that's a pretty powerful way to reinforce a behavior, and it isn't something that I would use every day.
Sure.
But for huge breakthrough performances, most definitely.
That's awesome.
So yeah, generally as long as they understand, and I like to work with my clients so that they understand what we're working on every day, because it's a lot easier to see a child's progress in the water when you know what to look for, when you know what skill they're working on and where it is in the big picture process.
So there's a plan every day?
Mm-hmm. But sometimes the kids have a plan too. And I go with that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're doing, 6 weeks, 5 a day, that's 30 classes.
Yes.
So there's essentially a rough agenda for each of those 30 days. Of where you
So
wanna
there's like a path
be. Okay.
that we follow, and then if children have, of course the lessons have to be customized to each child, so sometimes we kind of have to go off the path and
Sure.
get creative and see what works for that child. But in general, and I love the way this works because it really helps young ones learn easily and retain information. We start at the goal and we work backwards.
Okay.
And we work in really little pieces, and we approximate tiny pieces of progress so that everything that child is working on has some level of feeling familiar. It's a lot easier for them to learn when something feels familiar. So for the first lesson for a swimmer, for the first day, we're going to be holding on to the steps and then backing up a little bit and holding on to the steps again. And then we'll progress from there in little pieces. But everything that child experiences is going to feel a little bit familiar. And that helps them learn and retain the information.
So does the first lesson start from a float then?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends on how old the child is.
All right.
So definitely if they're not yet walking in their lesson 1, we'll start with the float.
Gotcha.
And that will be me holding that baby in the water and just showing that baby how to have its body so that it can maintain that position, and reinforcing their breaths too, so they get that their breaths are what will keep them above the surface. With the ones that are old enough to learn how to swim, their final goal is either to be in a float or to get themselves out of the water. So I'll kind of read the child and see how comfortable they are with the experience so far. And if they are moving and wanting to go, then we'll work on some swimming behaviors. If they're not yet comfortable, then oftentimes we'll work with the float, because or if they're older or if they have fears about getting their face wet. I feel like if they know that they have a safe place that they can be in at any moment, that gives them more confidence to then explore areas that maybe they're feeling less secure about. So it really depends on each child.
Which is cool that it's custom tailored.
Absolutely.
The idea of starting with a goal and working your way backwards, it's actually something I try to do in life a lot. I figure it's better to start with where you're going and then try and figure out a way back than start from the beginning and try and make your way there. I don't know. It's just
absolutely.
In life and business, it's worked out better for me to make sure that I'm working my way back from where I'm trying to get to. So it's neat that it's part of the ISR curriculum.
I would say a big facet to the ISR curriculum is to set them up for success.
Right.
Day one, I want my student to experience success multiple times. And that's a beautiful part of how the lessons are designed to work. A lot of people see lessons happening and they think it looks easy, or maybe they think it looks hard, but generally they don't understand everything that's behind the lesson. And that's where educating the parents, I think, really helps change the experience to where it's super empowering for the child and the student. I'm sorry, the child and the parent.
The child and the student,
We're all students, right?
Yeah, that works. and all children probably at some point too.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah, it's funny. I know there's a water safety ideology called they say for 3, and it's safer kids, safer water, safer response. And he uses the word kid because he says, we're all somebody's kid. Like we're all kids in some capacity. So that was the word he chose for that.
Cool.
Instead of because anybody could drown. So
yeah.
So instead of child, he used kid because I think he wanted to focus on little people, but it worked for everything. That's we talked about him before we started. Johnny Johnson, he came up with the Safer 3.
Yeah.
And it's a neat idea. The idea it's kind of like litters of protection essentially. But he segments it into 3 different categories. So safer kid, training the child. Safer water, whatever that water is, a boat, a pool, a lake, making the water itself as safe as could be. And then safer response, CPR, what happens afterwards.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I like keeping things simple and clear.
Yeah, it's good. It makes sense.
When we have such an enormous message to get across to so many people, I think that's really smart.
Yeah, Saber 3 is neat, and they've got a whole curriculum that goes with it. They've got cartoon characters for each area. There's a starfish and
cool.
some kind of other fish, and there's a coloring book that goes with it. It's a neat thing.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, Saber 3. They're good people.
Awesome. Yeah,
they've been doing it a long time, and they've got it down to a science. So I think they've even got little mascots they send out for classroom instruction. Yeah.
Cool.
So people, teachers can dress up into the the characters and teach a lesson. Yeah.
Wow.
So Saber 3 is cool. Yeah, it's like similar to Josh the Otter.
Okay.
Because they do the same thing. They send their otter. They've got a bunch of the otter costumes.
Really? I haven't seen this yet.
Yeah, they ship the otters out everywhere, and people do presentations, like water safety presentations.
Wow.
And then they've got the coloring book, obviously, that they do. And
cool.
Yeah, Josh the Otter's cool stuff, too. You should have all this stuff at your school, or when you teach.
I should.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Josh the Otter's got great stuff. A lot of them do.
Definitely.
Yeah, Josh the Otter's book is really good. Josh the Otter even has... that your kids might appreciate, this little toy, and it's an otter, and when you drop it in the water, it flips over on its back and floats.
Really?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's super cool, and they're cute too.
Okay, cool.
And they sell them like little bath toys, but they roll over and float.
I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah.
I've been using Elmo, but the otter sounds even cooler.
Does he flip over and float on his own?
From a vertical placement, he can pop up and float really well. He's good.
Yeah, well, you want a vertical. That's the drowning position. You can't have that,
We got to teach him how to get out of it, though,
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
Elmo's working on rolling from the pool side into a float. We're working on it.
Okay.
He's got a little bit more to do.
He's on his way there?
Yeah.
But yeah, the little otters they just came out with them. They're small, like I said, little bath toys, but they...
Cool.
When you drop them in the water, they flip over on their back and float. It's kind of...
That's awesome.
It's cool. Yeah.
I could just see my pool full with
these little toys.
otters floating around.
Yeah. Yeah, they're adorable. They did a good job with little Josh the Otter float toys.
Cool.
They're neat. Yeah, man, you gotta have this stuff, Get some literature,
Yeah.
Why did you decide to be an ISR instructor?
Well, actually, I want to take it back to how I first found out about ISR.
Fair enough.
I was 16 years old. I grew up in South Florida in Deerfield Beach.
Okay.
And I went home and I went into my backyard.
So you're one of also the 7 natives of Florida.
Well, I was born in California.
Oh, you're not a
and then
native.
yeah. I'm bi-coastal.
Gotcha.
I can't claim native status.
That coastal part's important.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. So I went to my backyard and I saw this little peanut of a baby swimming between his parents. And I was kind of freaked out because I had never seen this before. I saw the cover of Nirvana with the baby in Nirvana, and I'm like, that's really cool. But to see a tiny little baby swimming back and forth between his parents.
And you were 16?
I was 16.
So like 6 years ago?
You're awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
And so I met the parents and became really good friends with the mom.
Okay.
Actually, she became my best friend.
That's awesome.
Yes, and she was training to be an ISR instructor. And I moved up to Orlando. She introduced me to her brother. I married him.
Oh, wow. Are you still married?
No, but we have 2 awesome kids together. I'm married to another amazing human.
Perfect.
And so I moved up to Orlando to live with Zach, and Lisa is my best friend, and she was teaching ISR. And I was at UCF studying economics. And she hired me every summer to do her phone work, to take care of her inquiries, to do her scheduling, to deposit her checks, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then her mother, Carmen Edwards, was also teaching ISR, and she hired me too. So all of my summers of college, I was poolside watching hundreds of babies go through this program. And I just thought it looked like magic. And so fast forward 5 years, I graduated college. I was a stockbroker for Charles Schwab. And Zach and I decided that we wanted to start our family. And so before I even knew that I would be a mom, I knew that if I was a mom, they would have ISR lessons. Like, just a given. Yeah.
Obviously, yeah.
And so, fortunately, their ISR instructor was their grandma. And it was a beautiful process. And then Zach and I were talking about moving down to South Florida.
Where were you living then?
We were living in Orlando.
Okay.
And he had a business opportunity down here.
Can you be a stockbroker in Orlando?
Oh, yeah.
Whenever I think stockbroker, I think New York, like on Wall Street.
I worked for Charles Schwab in a huge call center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
there were a lot of those.
Gotcha.
And it was a great experience. I loved that company. But Zach had a business opportunity down here. And one day, I had an opportunity to take my son for a refresher with Joanne Barnett. And as we were there, she said, I heard you're moving to South Florida. Would you be interested in bringing the program down to Broward County? There's a huge need, and we don't have anyone teaching down there. And when she asked me that, I was like, really? Like, you think I could do that? Because it just looks so magic to me.
Sure.
But shortly after she and I talked, I decided to go for it. I got certified down in Boynton Beach at the JCC.
Nice.
And then I went, at that point, I was a Safe Start instructor, so I was working on the nonprofit side of ISR. And then I decided that I wanted to go private and started my business in Palm Beach County. My first year of teaching, I only had 7 students. But I was getting calls from Broward like crazy. And that was what Joanne and I originally discussed, was bringing it to Broward. So as soon as I said, yes, I'll go to Broward, my business blew up. I had like 40 kids on the pool deck throughout the day. It was huge.
Insanity.
It was massive, yes. And business was really great, but I was frustrated because I felt like I was working really long days, teaching lots of kids, and I was the only one in Broward County. And I learned about Facebook, and I was getting tagged on drowning articles, like on a weekly basis. And I just felt so frustrated, like what I was doing wasn't even making a dent.
Right, like you weren't getting to those, like that family in time.
Yeah.
Especially if it's local.
Exactly, and I was teaching as many hours as I possibly could.
Right.
And so I decided that I needed to start being a part of expanding ISR in Broward County and started recruiting instructors. And as instructors came to Broward County, I made myself available to help them with their businesses and just be a support system for them. And now there's also been some other instructors trained from Christy Wexler. I don't train instructors, but needless to say, the program has grown in Broward County.
I couldn't imagine there wasn't someone there even 10 years ago. It's crazy.
People had tried,
right?
But it didn't take off.
It's such a big area.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And that was part of my frustration.
Right.
I was driving from Cooper City. I even went down to North Miami. I mean, I was all over the place. And
our most veteran pool fence dealer is in Miami. He does Miami and Broward.
Oh yeah.
In the whole country, the guy who's been doing it the longest is Bill Malaris, and he's in Miami. I believe, it's my theory, that he's installed more pool fences than anyone alive on the planet.
Well, I would like to shake his hand.
Yeah, because he's been doing it consistently, probably 4 a day, every day for 27 years,
Awesome.
So, he's had to put in thousands by now,
Good.
So, yeah, I would imagine that ISR would be big in that area as well, because...
It's growing now.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Broward County and Dade County, as you know, but maybe all y'all don't know that, they generally take turns being the leading county.
Yeah.
For pediatric drownings on an annual basis.
Yeah.
So it definitely seems like ISR belongs.
Sure.
Or should people in Miami need access
Right.
to this? I don't know what the challenge is with growing it there. I think it's been something that's kind of moved down slowly from Orlando.
Right.
And it just needs a little bit more time to cultivate in Miami.
Sure.
There's definitely a need, though.
Absolutely. A lot of pools, a lot
Yes.
of water.
Yes, lots of babies.
A lot of babies.
Being born every single day.
Yep. People
Yeah.
who theoretically should be able to afford it,
Yeah.
And if not, the scholarships, obviously. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, which you have your Live Like Jake shirt on? Speaking of
I have a
scholarships?
Live Like Jake shirt on.
Yes.
I love Live Like Jake. Love Carrie Morrison.
It's awesome. I met. Was that the first time I met you? Was at her
Yes.
thing? That's cool.
I was so excited. I completely dorked out.
That's funny. I think you did.
I did.
Yeah.
I completely did.
And
I
the
told
reason
my
I-
kids about it, and they were like, "Oh, Mom."
Which anyone dorking out over me is ridiculous. Just so you know, like, the only reason I know that is because you messaged me and you're like, "I'm so sorry, I ran away." I didn't even notice.
Okay, good.
You could have got away with it.
Dang.
I never would have known. But that's.
Well, yeah,
that's
I've been
funny.
wanting to meet you for a while because I see what you're doing in the community, and I feel like we're on the same mission. And I love how you're out there raising awareness. I refer all of my clients to your company.
Thank you.
But more importantly, I feel like you're out there really doing everything you can
We're trying.
to raise awareness in the community.
Yeah.
So we're partners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about that you were saying, and I agree, that the key to making an impact on this is partnerships, right? Is doing
Absolutely.
it together. It's too big of a problem
Absolutely.
for any one human, and I was talking about this recently with somebody who was starting up a nonprofit, and she said that she had the same thought that I think a lot of people have is, oh, this is so obvious, like, I'm gonna fix this, like, people need to know, so I'm gonna start my nonprofit and we're gonna wrap this thing up, like, we're gonna solve drowning. And she quickly figured out that that's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah.
It's because it seems so, like, this is a problem, people just need to know,
Yeah.
and we'll fix this thing in 6 months, we'll be good.
Definitely.
But you find out real quick that it's a much larger beast to wrestle.
Yes. Yes. And I'm really glad to hear that there's more of an awareness around working together because I realized it's super fast that I wasn't going to make much of a difference on my own.
Right.
And even partnering with an ISR is fabulous, but I see opportunity for partnerships way beyond our individual organizations, not only limited to aquatics, but partnering with pediatricians, partnering with companies like yours, partnering with parents in the community. That's the only way that we're going to end childhood drowning. And we all just need to get on board right now because I know so many people that are passionate about it. They want to see this happen, and they're racking their brain too. Like, what's it going to take? I believe what it's going to take is for everyone who says that they want to see childhood drowning to start to look at each other, see what they're all offering, and see how we can collectively come together and be stronger together.
Yeah. And we talked about, there's been a few different, group organizations that have started. We talked,
Yes.
yours now PPCD, the Parents Preventing Childhood Drowning.
Yes.
Which is brand new, which is really cool.
Yes, they definitely get it. They definitely get that there's strength in numbers.
Yeah.
And that they're going to be able to accomplish it together. And I love seeing, I don't even know, 14, 17 different organizations that are a part of that nonprofit.
That's awesome. And then we talked a little bit about the National Drowning Prevention Alliance, which is literally an alliance. It's an umbrella organization for other organizations to be a part of. Did we hold on? Good job, me.
Sound good.
Yeah, but their whole thing is bringing people together to work on the problem of water safety together. And they're, have you been to their conference?
I have not.
I'm going to be, technically speaking, I've spoken at it before. It's in New Orleans this year. But this year, instead of actually going up and giving a presentation, which is what I've done in the past, this year I'm going to do this podcast, this show, live on stage in one of their rooms.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm just going to do this, at the NDPA conference.
Okay.
So I'm kind of stoked about it.
Are you just going to have them like scheduled
I'm just going to
multiple?
Just one.
Okay.
Yeah. Just one guest.
One guest.
Yeah.
Wow. One
person for 45 minutes, because that's my spot. I have a 45-minute session.
Do you already know who it will be?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm hoping the NDPA will give me somebody. Somebody they want to highlight, or maybe, Melissa, the president of the NDPA, was already on. She could do it again, or the executive director, Adam Ketchmarchi, who I used to work with when I was on the board there. He might do it or something, maybe, I don't know. But I think that's kind of a neat thing,
Yeah.
It's nice for me. I don't have to prepare a talk.
And you'll be able to do it live like you are?
Yeah, I just need a phone and a tripod, and I'll be good to go. So
that's going to give a lot of people access to this information that would not be available.
It'll probably let a lot of people know about the NDPA also.
Great.
Because our audience is pretty broad. So, I'm hoping it'll bring a lot of attention to the National Drowning Prevention Alliance.
Great.
But the other one we were talking about is Families United to Prevent Drowning. And, that is an organization of people and organizations who have had a drowning fatality. One of the toughest and most powerful things that I used to do every year on the board of the NDPA is at the conference, they would have a hotel suite that they would rent at the conference, so that if any person who was a member was feeling overwhelmed, or there was a talk going on that they didn't want to be a part of, they do a lot of like medical stuff, and paramedics will talk about the what it's like medically for a kid to drown, and it's just, it can be an emotional thing if you've experienced drowning. So they had this hospitality suite that was available if somebody just wanted to go and hang out, chill out, get away from everybody. So they were kind enough that they would host the NDPA board for one night of the conference. They had like a cocktail hour thing. They had hors d'oeuvres, but they would go around the room and they would each tell their story of what happened to their child or their sibling. And there's probably 20 of them. So they just go one at a time and go around the room, and you hear them back to back like that in the same room. And if that doesn't have an effect on what you're doing, I mean, nothing will. It's profound, and that's just a tiny piece of all of the people who have been affected. These are just the ones who have decided to start a nonprofit and be a part of that particular group, and it's and they keep getting new members, which is terrible. They say that they're a club and they love each other, but they hope no one else joins.
The club that no one wants to join.
Yeah, it's sad. But the other organization, when you're talking about organizations combining, Water Safety USA, it's kind of neat. They pick one message a year, and then they, as a group, and then they kind of distribute it out amongst themselves. So I think last year it was that, I think it was swim instruction. It was teach your child to swim, essentially. But that's the Parks and Recreation Department, the Boy Scouts of America, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the Red Cross, American Red Cross. That's they're combining together into one banner, what they call Water Safety USA.
That should be pretty powerful.
It is. It's cool. But their idea was that if they're going to talk about water safety, they should all be on one message, which I thought was important too. So I like these kind of different groups combining together because I think that's important.
Absolutely. We have to do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been doing this 30 years, and drowning is still the number one accidental killer of kids between 1 and 4. So obviously something's not working. That's the only way to put it, right?
Yeah. And I have had the experience of seeing how easily drowning can happen.
Sure.
With my own child, when my firstborn was 18 months old, and he was taking ISR lessons, and he did not like them yet.
No.
So I had this bubble of, it's not going to happen to me.
Right.
He doesn't even want to go near the pool. And I was actually in the pool taking care of a 6-year-old. And my son was on the pool deck behind me, like a good 20 feet away from the pool.
Sure.
Playing in his little area. And I had my head turned away from my son, and I was talking to this little 6-year-old. And I thank God every day that I looked over and I saw my 18-month-old baby completely submerged with just his fingertips out. Now, he had not finished his ISR lessons. He was fully clothed, and he certainly wasn't at a place where he could save himself. But fortunately, he had really good breath control from his experience so far. Yeah, right. From ISR so far. So when I saw him, I just pulled him out of the water, and he was fine. I thank God he was fine and that I saw him, because if I hadn't seen him, he would have drowned 5 feet away from me.
Right.
In the water.
What'd you hear about?
Yes. I've read many stories about that and heard many parents who've shared those stories. And for a long time, I didn't share this story because I was so ashamed that I had let that happen to my child. I told, like that day, I told the people that needed to know. But for years, I didn't share this. And even when I became an ISR instructor, for years, I didn't share this.
Right.
Because I just had a lot of shame around.
Yeah.
How did I let that even happen? But then I realized that I need to start sharing this, because what I learned from that experience, first of all, is that drowning is often silent. And I've heard many interviews on the news where families have lost their child to a drowning accident, and I feel like the first thing I hear them say is, I didn't hear anything.
It's not the Baywatch drowning.
It's not the Baywatch drowning.
Right.
There's no splash.
No.
There's no mama.
Yeah.
There's no help. It's not that dramatic movie scene that it's portrayed to be
right.
in the movies. And so I realized that by me not sharing this, that I was keeping a pretty vital piece of information to myself.
Right.
And it was hard at first to start telling people about it, but now I feel like I had that experience, and fortunately he was okay, and the least I can do now is share this with other parents so that they don't have that bubble.
Sure.
That's not going to happen to them. And that they know that it's not a question of good parenting or bad parenting.
No.
It's that kids they're curious, and they're persistent, and they're brilliant. And if they want something, they're going to go for it. And kids are attracted to the water. And for me, it's not a question of if they get in the water alone. It's when they get in the water alone. Are we going to have an experience that is empowering, or are we going to have an experience that's tragic?
Right. And that's a great way of putting it, because, not only are they brilliant and adaptive, but they evolve quick. One day a kid can't open a doorknob, and then they can.
That's true.
Just like that.
Yeah.
I've heard too many stories where, I didn't know she could open the back door, and then she did.
Yeah. Because she didn't send us a memo.
No, you didn't get an email. Yeah.
I can open the back door now.
Yeah.
You don't know until you know.
Right. Neither did she probably. She figured it out.
Yeah.
And, so, you don't know, what your child's going to figure out, how fast.
Yeah.
And, that's why we recommend all the layers of protection.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and you said you yourself have had drowning experiences?
I have been rescued from drowning in open water 3 times in my life. 3 times.
Nice.
Twice under the age of 5.
Okay.
The first time I was 2 years old, and I was living down in Pompano Beach, and we went out on the boat all the time. And I had no idea how good life was. We had this beautiful boat, and there were always lots of people on it. I thought that we were just having these parties all the time. Well, I learned later that my uncle was chartering his big, beautiful boat. So these were just all my friends.
Right.
And it was a normal thing for us to go out on the boat.
Sure.
This is late 70s. And my dad took me off the boat, and he sat me down on the patio, and he said, stay here while I go get your sister. And then he said, fortunately, he did hear something. He heard the splash of me jumping off the dock
right.
into the canal at nighttime. And poor guy, I know he's still traumatized from this, because he jumped in the water, he couldn't see anything.
Oh, wow.
So he said he was just using his arms to feel and coming up with vegetation and he was panicking, and then he found me, and I was just like frozen in the water, and he brought me out of the water. It must not have been that long because I didn't take in water.
Right.
And again, it was back in the late 70s, so there was no ambulance called or anything like that.
But called a cell phone.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that there was no brain damage because I did graduate college, so I feel pretty good about that. But it was we lived one house from the Intercoastal, so it was a really scary experience for him. And then again, when I was 5, we were out in Catalina Island in California, and we were on these paddle boards, not like today's paddle boards, but more like a piece of wood.
Yeah.
That one person sat on one side and the other person sat on the other, and then there was like bicycle pedals.
Yeah.
Kind of like a seesaw on the water. And somehow I went off one end and under a dock.
Nice.
Yeah. So I had to be rescued from that experience. It wasn't until I was 21, though, that I experienced what we call learned helplessness. And that's when you're in a situation, at a young age, you're in a situation, and you don't have to do anything to be a part of the solution. It's like these magic hands just come in and rescue you. And in that situation, you learn, just wait, and someone will fix this for you. So I'm 21, swimming out in the Bahamas with Zach and Lisa, living it up before kids, and they say, let's swim out to the buoy. Like, okay. Now, I was not sporty. I'm more of a lounger. I don't have a background in swimming. But I decided to do it with them, and I was having a hard time getting back to the shore. They were already on the shore, and I remember, I don't know if it was a rip or what, but I just remember my efforts weren't progressing.
You were going anywhere.
Yes. And I remember mentally being like, well, this is it, and giving up. And then my husband saw me, and he ran out and rescued me and brought me to shore.
He bait watched you. Yeah.
He bait watched me. But that was when I learned,
B-A-E watched you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, actually, looking back after I trained with ISR and we were learning about learned helplessness, I wish I would have known that I could have rolled over to float in any of those situations. Yeah. But then
you could have floated and waited.
Could have floated and waited for sure, for as long, and I would have loved it. I love to float because I like to lounge. But I did.
Lounge, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Some people, they want to go.
Evil.
They're running in place.
ISIS. Terrible. I don't believe it.
But now I know that learned helplessness it's a real thing, and that's why when after our students are skilled, I'll get the parents in the water and teach them how to practice, so they feel really confident, knowing that they're keeping it consistent. They're not going to undo anything,
right.
And I'll tell them if they fall in, give them a few seconds to see, once they're skilled, to see what they're going to do. Give them an opportunity to do something.
Right.
Even if it's just starting to roll over. They don't have to even necessarily complete a performance.
Right.
But if we take a child who is doing nothing in that situation,
right.
and we pick them up, which parents do this a lot, not realizing that they're inadvertently shaping a behavior, which I didn't know before either, guys. Sure. I didn't know what. But we teach them, if you get into the situation, just wait, and someone will fix it for you.
That's interesting. I've never before now heard that term, learned helplessness.
Yeah.
Is that common? I mean, it's got to be, right?
I guess it depends on how. I mean, I would imagine so. Because
I think I know adults who have learned helplessness. You know.
The last time I experienced it, I was 21, so I guess, and
right.
Who knows if I would. Now I'll get into my float.
Right. Yeah.
Like that.
Right. You've been all right.
Now I like to float.
You're a good floater?
I'm a professional.
Yeah.
I could win the float-a-thon.
You're literally a professional.
Yes, I literally am.
There's this Nathan, I always say his last name wrong. Social? It's like T-S-O-C-H-L. He was on the podcast, and he did a treadathon.
Wow.
He did a 24-hour in the ocean.
Oh my goodness.
Treaded water.
That's the opposite of what I want to do.
Yeah, to raise money and education for water safety.
That's great.
Yeah, he does a lot of international water safety work. But yeah, he did a treadathon for 24 hours in the ocean, and it looked terrible. Like I was watching him, like that is not looking like a good time.
I'm thinking,
you know? Now floatathon,
24 seconds maybe.
Yeah, of treading water. Yeah, a floatathon would have been better.
Right.
Yeah, just hanging out.
Yeah.
Floating.
Yes.
Yeah.
There could be accommodations made too.
Right, yeah. Beverages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can make it like a really good thing, you know?
Yeah.
So what is your best water safety tip?
I've shared it, and it is that drowning is silent.
Yeah.
Don't believe it's not going to happen to you. And then I'll sneak in another one if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Avoid using flotation.
Yeah.
Unless you're on a boat and it's a lifeguard approved jacket.
Mm-hmm.
Flotation teaches the wrong information. I don't know if it's considered bold, but I'm going to say that it teaches a drowning posture because it teaches kids that they should try to have their face out of the water. And without the flotation, that's not going to work. Their body weight, when they're like this, their body weight's going to pull them down. So why struggle when you can just float? And the flotations really make it difficult for children to learn the proper skills too. So I would just say avoid them all. I know it's cute to have your baby floating around experiencing some independence, but it's just really not age appropriate.
Yeah, especially, you know, we've heard plenty of stories where kids had water wings on, they took them off, or parents took them off, and then they went back in the pool, and either they got rescued or they didn't. And those are terrible. You know, you've got a kid who thinks they can swim.
Yes, and you have a parent who probably thinks they're doing the right thing.
Right.
And this is not a judgment thing at all, any day. Right. I don't have any judgment towards any parents. This is how a lot of us learned how to swim.
Sure.
A lot of us
had water wings, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what our parents did.
Yeah.
Didn't think anything about it.
No.
I didn't think anything about it either.
It's like
until I had the information.
It's the water equivalent of training wheels, you think, right? Like you start with this.
Old school?
Then, then you move on, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense logically if you don't know, right? If you don't have the proper education, you can almost justify it. You know?
Yes.
You know, give a little help until they figure it out. You know, but you're right. I think it reinforces bad behaviors. It gives a legitimate false sense of security. Which I'm not a fan of that term in general because my pool fence has been accused of being a false sense of security. But I think that's a real one when kids think they can swim and they can't.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
So they lose their fear of the water, but they don't have the skills to back it up.
That's a dangerous combo.
It is.
Yeah.
My mom used to say that a little bit of knowledge is dangerous. You know, if you know a little bit, but not enough to actually do something with it. You know, that's worse than knowing nothing. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a different approach with ISR where we say let's get them skilled, and then the confidence will come, and then the joy is inevitable.
Right.
Instead of and what I would say to some of my clients is I'm not going to put my kids' toys out in the middle of the street.
Right.
And let them go play there.
No.
So why am I going to attract them to a potentially deadly environment before giving them the skills to handle it?
Statistically even more deadly than the street.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
It is, you know.
Yeah.
And it's in your backyard all the time. You know.
Yep.
At least cars drive by, you know.
True.
The pool's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's always there. Yeah. What's your favorite part about teaching?
I love watching, of course, that the babies are safe, but to see them go from really not knowing anything about how to handle themselves in that environment to being independent and having the confidence where, again, to see a baby know that she just did something really awesome. I love that. And I love hearing that they take that confidence with them well beyond the pool deck.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
You asked me to ask you if you won the lotto, would you keep teaching?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's cool. Maybe not full-time.
I would do Olive like Jake.
Olive, that's it? That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, definitely not full-time.
No, yeah, maybe like 3 days a week or something.
Well,
you have to do 5 days.
I'm going to have to do 5 days,
right,
but I'll pick my best hour.
Yeah. I do 9 to 11, and that's it. Yeah. No more.
That could work.
Yeah, just live like Jake. Maybe you could travel doing Live Like Jake. You could.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
You could go to Wisconsin or somewhere prettier for a week, Tahiti or something.
Yeah. Go see Michael Petrella in Michigan.
Yeah. Or California when he's out there being a rock star.
Yes. California.
Yeah. Do you still have people out there?
I still have family in California. Yeah. My mom lives in Atascadero, which is by Morro Bay.
Okay.
It's Central Coastal.
Yep.
And sister and her family out in Atascadero.
Very cool. We have a lot of pool and stuff out there.
I love California.
It is cool.
It's gorgeous. I love like Northern California.
I've never been to Northern California.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
I've done LA and Los Angeles and Los Angeles and Long Beach.
Okay.
We used to go to Long Beach once a year for a conference.
Cool.
And I used to stay on the Queen Mary, which is kind of cool. but I've never made it up to the northern half yet.
If you ever get a chance, it's gorgeous. Even just riding along the Pacific Coast Highway and seeing those beautiful cliffs with the ocean in the backdrop, it's gorgeous. And then they have massive redwoods.
I really hate the cold.
Okay.
And I always think of that the Mark Twain quote. You know the one?
Which one?
It's the worst winter I ever experienced was a summer in San Francisco.
Actually, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah. I think it's Mark Twain. I think everybody attributes to Mark Twain, but yeah, the worst winter I ever experienced was a summer in San Francisco.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah.
Well.
And that makes me scared to go there.
Yeah, well, the ocean is freezing no matter when you go.
Yeah, it's just cold all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's just it.
Brain freeze.
It's not like here where it's warm sometimes.
No, it's not perfect like it is here.
It is perfect here, right?
It's perfect here.
Yeah.
Especially right now.
It's very nice right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of this time of year. Until it gets cold. In the case, I'm just not happy. Yeah. And cold for me is like 60.
Yeah, well, that's how it is for us Floridians.
Yeah, below 60 is too much.
We had a cold front last week, and I slept in and missed it.
Right, that was it. It was over. I have a rule that I don't complain about the heat because I know I'm going to complain about the cold, and I don't want to complain all year. So I have to pick one. Because I know I'm going to talk constantly about how cold it is and just be miserable. Yeah. So I try really hard not to ever bitch about how hot it is because
me too.
I'm definitely going to complain about how cold it is.
Yeah, so. And that makes sense because, if you're going to pick one, pick the shorter one, right?
Right, there's that too. And the one I just can't stand at all. You also want me to ask you what your favorite music to teach you is. What is your favorite music?
Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Yeah?
It just gets everybody in the right state of mind.
That's a good call.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. That's really good.
The only thing about it is it's starting to have a little bit of a groundhog effect on me. Do you remember that movie Groundhog Day?
Oh, where it's just the same every day?
Yeah, where the alarm goes off and it's the same song every day. But
you're starting to have the same flashbacks of prior lessons.
I'm like, it's time to work. It's time to make the donuts. When Bob Marley comes on,
that's it.
It's time to make the donuts.
Now, you can never listen to it recreationally now.
No, I can't.
It's burnt out.
I mean, maybe a little peppered in here and there.
Yeah.
Or and the
if you hear it out somewhere,
the rarities. Yeah, that stuff.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I've seen the Wailers a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen his kids a bunch of times, Ziggy and Damien, and they come around a lot. So
cool.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be a show pretty soon.
Yeah.
I saw one of the kids.
One of the sons. He's got 30 of them.
Yeah.
So, they travel a lot.
It's all good to me.
Yeah, they're very good. And I was with Mike's brother actually. I saw Toots and the Maytals, which are kind of similar. But that cool. is the perfect ISR music.
Yes.
It makes sense.
Yes. It works.
Yeah. I wonder if the kids, when they hear it repetitively, if they kind of have the same thing where it kicks in, this is ISR time because the music,
Maybe, and I do have a set list from Spotify that I listen to.
Okay.
It starts at the same time of the day, so they hear my students will hear their song.
That's funny.
They're not going to hear "Could You Be Love" at 7:40 in the morning.
No.
They're hearing we're jamming.
That's funny. That's really
so
cool.
They may have a little association and groundhog effect too, but I hope that it's all good.
That might be helping them.
Yeah.
And maybe later in life they swim better during jamming than they are.
I think so.
I like it. Is there anything you want people to know in general as we wrap up here? Anything? One last thing?
Yeah, I just want everyone to be aware and don't think it's not going to happen to you. Don't fall for the bubble of it's not going to happen to you. And anything that you can do to keep your child safe around the water, let's do it. If I can be of any support, please reach out to me.
How can people find you?
You can find me at n.jones@infantswim.com or www, and you do have to put in the 3 W's,
yes.
.amazingswimmers.com. You can find your closest ISR instructor at infantswim.com. And please know about Live Like Jake. There's scholarships available, so cost is no longer a barrier. You just want to get your kids skilled and safe as soon as possible.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
It was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Eric.
Awesome. Thanks, Elle.